The 7th of December 1941, Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. But before we talk about the attack, we need to set the scene. Imagine you're a sailor aboard one of the battleships. It's Sunday morning. The sun is just coming up over the Pacific. The air is warm. The water is calm. There's a gentle breeze coming off the ocean. Around you, the most powerful warships in the world are moored peacefully in two perfect rows. Battleship Row, USS Arizona, USS Oklahoma, USS West Virginia, USS California, USS Nevada, USS Tennessee, USS Maryland, USS Pennsylvania. These aren't just ships, they're floating cities. Each one carries 1,000 to 2,000 men. Each one is armed with massive 16-inch guns, capable of destroying a target 30 miles away. You feel safe, protected. The Japanese are thousands of miles away. Most of your shipmates are sleeping below decks in cramped bunks. Some are eating breakfast, fresh eggs, toast, coffee in the mess hall. A few officers are getting dressed in their cabins. Some sailors are preparing for the 8 a.m. flag-raising ceremony. Life is routine, normal, peaceful. But at 7:55 a.m., everything changes. In the next 15 minutes, just 900 seconds, Battleship Row will be transformed from a symbol of American power into a graveyard. This is that story. The story of the first 15 minutes. The moments that changed the course of history. 5 minutes before the bombs start falling, Battleship Row is a snapshot of peacetime routine. On the USS Arizona, 9-year-old seaman James Corey is standing on the quarterdeck, enjoying the warm morning sun. His shift starts at 8 a.m., so he has a few minutes to himself. He's thinking about shore leave, about the girl he met in Honolulu last week. He has no idea he has less than 10 minutes to live. On the USS Oklahoma, Ensign Francis Flaherty is in the turret, running through maintenance checklists. It's routine work, checking gauges, testing systems, making sure everything is ready in case it's needed. It will all be useless in moments. On the USS West Virginia, Captain Mervyn Bennion is in his cabin, getting dressed for the day. He's 54 years old, a career naval officer with decades of experience. He's about to die a hero's death, staying at his post as his ship sinks beneath him. On the USS Nevada, at the northern end of Battleship Row, Lieutenant Commander Francis Thomas is on the bridge, reviewing morning reports. He has no idea that he's about to make a decision that will change the course of the battle. The USS Arizona's crew, 1,100 sailors, are mostly below decks. Some are eating breakfast, eggs, ham, toast, fresh bread. Sunday breakfast is always good. It's one of the few perks of naval life. They're joking, laughing, talking about what they'll do when they get shore leave. Nobody knows what's coming. But the ships themselves are vulnerable. They're moored close together, sometimes in pairs, side by side to save space and make resupply easier. It's efficient for peacetime logistics. But for poor defense against air attack, it's a disaster. Anti-aircraft defenses are minimal. Most of the ship's AA guns are unmanned. The ammunition is locked in storage magazines below decks. It takes precious minutes to unlock it, pass it up to the gun crews, load it, and get the guns ready to fire. At 7:53 a.m., a sailor on the USS Nevada spots aircraft approaching from the north. For a moment, he thinks they're American planes, the B-17 seconds expected from California. Then he sees the red circles on the wings. Rising sun insignia. Japanese. He shouts a warning over the ship's loudspeaker. "General quarters! Enemy planes!" But it's too late. At the exact same moment, Japanese pilots are positioning themselves for their attack. At 7:55 a.m., the first torpedo bombers descend toward Battleship Row. Everything changes. The Japanese attack follows a precise, brutal strategy. Torpedo bombers target the battleships on the outside of Battleship Row, the ones with a clear line of attack through the harbors, shallow waters. High-altitude bombers target the ships on the inside, dropping specially designed armor-piercing bombs meant to penetrate thick steel decks. Dive bombers target airfields, hangars, fuel depots, anything that moves. The first victim is the USS Oklahoma. At 7:56 a.m., just 1 minute into the attack, a torpedo slams into her port side with a sound like thunder. Sailors below decks are knocked off their feet by the impact. Lights flicker. Water begins rushing in. 30 seconds later, another torpedo hits, and another, and another. In less than 5 minutes, the Oklahoma is struck by 5 torpedoes. The battleship begins to list heavily to port. Water floods into the lower decks. Men scramble to escape, climbing ladders, pushing through narrow passageways. At 8:08 a.m., just 12 minutes after the first hit, the Oklahoma rolls over completely and capsizes. Over 400 men are still inside the ship. They pound on the steel hull, desperate to escape. Outside, rescue workers will spend hours cutting through the hull with acetylene torches, hoping to find survivors. Some are saved, many are not. Next to the Oklahoma, the USS West Virginia takes 7 torpedo hits in rapid succession. Captain Mervyn Bennion hears the first explosion while he's still in his cabin. He immediately climbs up to the bridge. Around him, his ship is being torn apart. Fires are breaking out. The deck is slick with oil and blood. But Bennion stays at his post. He coordinates damage control efforts. He tries to save his ship. A fragment of shrapnel from a nearby bomb hits him in the abdomen. He's mortally wounded. His chief yeoman tries to help him below to the medical station, but Bennion refuses. "No," he says. "I'll stay here." He continues giving orders, continues fighting to save his ship until he collapses from blood loss. He dies on the bridge, a hero's death. The West Virginia settles onto the harbour floor, partially submerged. Further down the row, the USS California is hit by 2 torpedoes. She begins to sink slowly, water flooding into her compartments. But the worst destruction is yet to come. At 8:06 a.m., just 11 minutes into the attack, a Japanese high-altitude bomber releases a 1,760-pound armor-piercing bomb directly over the USS Arizona. The bomb falls for 10 long seconds. The crew below decks hears nothing. They don't even know they're about to die. The bomb penetrates deep into the ship. It passes through the boat deck. It passes through the main deck. It passes through the second deck. And then it detonates inside the forward magazine, the compartment where more than 1 million pounds of gunpowder and ammunition are stored. The explosion is incomprehensibly violent. A fireball erupts 500 feet into the air. The blast is so powerful it lifts the Arizona's 33,000-ton hull out of the water and slams it back down. The ship's bow collapses inward like crushed paper. The forward superstructure crumbles. Flames engulf the entire forward half of the ship. The smoke rises in a black column visible for miles. 1,177 sailors and Marines die in an instant. More than half the total American casualties at Pearl Harbor. Seaman James Corey, who was standing on the quarterdeck just minutes before, is blown overboard by the blast. He's one of the lucky ones. He survives. Most don't. Across the harbour, sailors on other ships watch in horror as the Arizona burns. Some of them are watching their brothers in arms die. The attack has been underway for less than 15 minutes, and Battleship Row is already destroyed. Inside the capsized USS Oklahoma, hundreds of men are trapped in complete darkness. The ship rolled so fast from upright to completely capsized in less than 12 minutes that many didn't have time to escape. Now they're imprisoned in sealed compartments, surrounded by rising water. The air is getting cold. It's getting harder to breathe. Some bang on the hull with hammers and wrenches, hoping someone outside will hear them. "Help! Is anybody out there? We're in here! Help us!" Outside, rescue crews do hear them. They use acetylene torches to cut through the thick steel hull, trying to cut a hole large enough for men to escape through. It's back-breaking, desperate work. Cut, cut, cut. The smell of burning metal fills the air. The heat is intense. Finally, a hole opens up. Men climb out, gasping for air, covered in oil and salt water. But many are too late. Some compartments are sealed too tight. The water rises too fast. By the end of the day, Over 400 men from the Oklahoma are dead. In the water around Battleship Row, the surface is covered with burning oil. Men who jumped overboard to escape their sinking ships now find themselves swimming through fire. The oil is thick, black, suffocating. One sailor later described the scene. The water was black with oil, and it was burning. You had to dive under and swim as far as you could before coming up for air. And when you came up, you hoped there wasn't fire where you surfaced. Some make it to shore, others don't. But amidst the chaos and horror, there are also acts of extraordinary courage. On the USS West Virginia, Doris Miller, a two-year-old mess attendant, is collecting laundry from officers' cabins when the attack begins. Miller is African American. In 1941, the Navy doesn't allow black sailors to serve in combat roles. So Miller is assigned to the kitchen, washing dishes and collecting laundry. But when the bombs start falling and the general quarters alarm sounds, Miller doesn't hide. He runs to the deck. He helps carry wounded sailors to the medical station. He helps move ammunition to gun crews. Then something unprecedented happens. Miller mans a .50 caliber anti-aircraft gun. He's never been trained to use it, but he figures it out by watching the gun crew work, and he starts shooting. Boom, boom, boom. For the next 15 minutes, Miller fires at Japanese planes, ducking down to reload, popping back up to fire, again. He downs at least one Japanese plane, possibly two. He doesn't stop until he runs out of ammunition and is ordered to abandon ship. Miller will later receive the Navy Cross for his actions, the first African American to be awarded the medal. Meanwhile, one battleship is attempting something almost impossible: escape. The USS Nevada, moored at the northern end of Battleship Row, is the only battleship to get underway during the attack. At 8:03 a.m., just 8 minutes into the attack, the Nevada's crew manages to fire up the boilers and cast off the mooring lines. The ship begins moving toward the harbor entrance. For a moment, it actually looks like the Nevada might make it out to open water. But the Japanese pilots see what's happening. They realize that if the Nevada sinks in the narrow harbor entrance, it will block the entire channel, trapping all the other ships inside. So they focus all their firepower on the Nevada. Dive bombers swarm. Bombs hit the deck, the superstructure, the engine room. Fires break out. The ship is taking on water. Realizing the Nevada is about to sink, the harbor control officer radios an order: beach the ship. At 9:10 a.m., the Nevada runs aground at Hospital Point, just short of the harbor entrance. She's badly damaged, but she's not sinking in the channel, and that might have saved the entire harbor. In just 15 minutes, Battleship Row was transformed from a symbol of American naval power into a scene of devastation. 4 battleships sunk, 4 more damaged, 2,403 Americans dead, 1,178 wounded. The USS Arizona still lies at the bottom of Pearl Harbor today, a memorial, a tomb, a reminder of that 15 minutes of horror. 1,177 men died aboard the Arizona. Most of them never made it off the ship. But here's the plot twist that changes everything. The attack didn't achieve its strategic goal. The 3 American aircraft carriers, USS Enterprise, USS Lexington, and USS Saratoga, weren't in port that day. They survived, and within 6 months, those carriers would win the Battle of Midway, sinking 4 Japanese carriers and turning the tide of the Pacific War. Japan destroyed Battleship Row, but they didn't destroy America's ability to fight back. So here's the question that haunts historians. Could anything have been done to prevent Battleship Row's destruction? Or was the disaster inevitable the moment the Japanese fleet left Japan? Drop your answer in the comments. And if you want the rest of the story, the personal acts of heroism, Roosevelt's response, and how America rose from the ashes to defeat Japan, subscribe now. Because this is just part 3 of 5. And the next chapter reveals the untold stories of courage that emerged from the smoke and fire.